Morning, kids. Today we're going to talk about your poetry lesson, Fun with Limericks. So some of our goals or objectives, we want to compose a limerick that includes rhyme scheme, rhythm, figurative language, and then you have to share the final product with me so I can grade it and evaluate it. So some tips and resources for this. First and foremost, make sure you're using the writing process. Remember that it's a multi-step process. It's not just sitting down and drafting. Before you do that, you want to make sure that you are pre-writing, maybe making a mind web, jotting down some ideas to help you get started. Then you can begin the drafting process. After you draft, don't forget to go back and revise and edit. Make some improvements to your work to make sure that your final product is the best that you can create. Secondly, since we're creating a limerick, you want to make sure that you follow the pattern for a limerick. So a limerick has a very specific rhythm and a very specific rhyme scheme. With the rhythm of a limerick, you want to make sure that it's 5 total lines, with lines 1, 2, and 5 having the same number of syllables, roughly 7 to 10 syllables. And you want to make sure that lines 3 and 4 also have the same number of syllables, roughly somewhere between 4 and 6 syllables. For the rhyme scheme, you want to make sure that lines 1, 2, and 5 rhyme, and lines 3 and 4 rhyme. So if you want to analyze that rhyme scheme, it would be an AA, BBA rhyme scheme. A few resources to help you out with that. If you're having trouble rhyming, you can see I included a link to a rhyming dictionary. What that is it works very much like a regular dictionary. You type in a word, but instead of giving you a definition, it'll give you other words that rhyme or almost rhyme with that word. That can be really helpful when you're creating limericks and poetry. Secondly, you see I included a link to a thesaurus. As you can recall, a thesaurus is used to find words that have the same meaning. In other words, synonyms. So if you think of a word, you plug it in, maybe in your first draft. As you go back and revise and edit, you might use a thesaurus to help improve your word choice and improve the quality of your writing. So as you can see here, I included an example limerick for you. I'm not going to read it to you, but I want you to notice that lines 1, 2, and 5 have the same number of syllables. They all have 8 syllables. And then lines 3 and 4 also have the same number of syllables. Again, check the rhyme scheme. You'll see that lines 1, 2, and 5 rhyme, fun, one, and done. And then you'll see that lines 3 and 4 also rhyme, stupider and Jupiter. So this would be an example of a poem that meets the criteria. Lastly, you'll see that I also included figurative language. If you're struggling to recall what figurative language is, remember, figurative language includes things like similes, metaphors, personification. Those are the things that we usually talk about as being figurative language. So in this example poem, you can see that I used a simile, comparing two unlike things using like, as, or than. You'll see my figurative language in lines 3 and 4. Sometimes it's stupider than bugs on Jupiter. So there's an example of a poem that would score very well. And don't forget, when you finish your final product, make sure you share it with me. That's my Wadsworth City Schools email. Make sure you use your WMS Google account as well. Thanks, kids. Look forward to seeing your work.